Hi, Thomas.
Good morning, sir. I mean, good afternoon. What's happening, man?
Wait for the feed to build up a little bit. Um, yeah, I'll just get started. I don't see anybody on yet. But, okay, so Tanzanina, Kanipuit, Wampaske, Mikasi, Mikwanapio. Many blessings to all my relations in the four directions. I'm here today with Thomas Monias from the Pimicikamak Cree Nation. And he's been doing a tour here in the United States regarding hydroelectric impacted communities.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us, Thomas? What can you tell us about your tour and how it's impacting the people?
Basically, we started off from New York.
Yeah.
And we've been traveling back and forth between New York and Boston and other cities in between here, just delivering the message that the hydro energy that the people buying from Canada is not really clean.
Yeah.
It's not green. It's basically creating a very terrible human people living there in their traditional lands for thousands of years completely disappeared because of the flooding of the hydro dams created that. And we try to send a message to the people here in the United States that they need to understand when your governments present you the energy and then calling it clean and green energy, and not knowing what's going on back in the Canada. It's where you need to find out the truth. What is clean energy?
Yeah.
What is green energy? What does it do to the United States? It's a possibility you look at it as a clean green energy because you're not destroying lands of indigenous people here in regards to hydro dam. As a matter of fact, what I saw in some days here, some of the dams are being removed. And I wish we can do that back home, but as long as United States keep buying hydropower from either Manitoba Hydro or from Quebec Hydro, we pay the price, And when we pay the price, I said, we are the ones who actually see that live in those devastated lands and waters.
Right.
And our people, for so many years, thousands of years, have lived off the land, free, like they just go out there and do what they can do. So that's what we came here to tell at the same time.
Yeah. Can you give us maybe a little backdrop of the history of Pimicikamak?
Pimicikamak is basically the people who have always lived on their traditional lands for thousands of years. And Pimicikamak is also an old piece of entity that's completely been put away by government, Canadian government policies, including Indian Act itself. That's part of the process of dispossession. Basically, also a cultural genocide. And also by epidemics of biological warfare, so some people call it biological diseases that were brought from the other side of the river, the other side of the ocean, where we got infected and many of us have died. That's another way of genocide. There are other ways of what genocide, cultural genocide is about. But you take a look at the dams that are being built on our waters and our traditional lands. Your rights as a treaty rights or as indigenous rights or as sovereign rights to these particular areas, these particular lands, when you see being destroyed, you see your life as Pimicikamak, as a nation itself, living in this horrible place where dams are being built. Where I live, there's about 8 dams right across the Nelson River. And every day every week, every month and years, every second. Land falls to the water and creates a very horrific contamination of water, which we now are trying to figure out how we're going to deal with this. So the message we're trying to get through the United States is basically don't buy hydro energy, because all this is the same thing as tar sands. It's just the same thing as fossil fuels, okay? Because they're not clean.
Right. Carlton was telling me that he was working with the 4-Bay crew, and they do a lot of cleanup for GenPeg. And he says that during those cleanups, there have been, as the islands disappear because of the fluctuation of the water, that it's exposed the graves of the ancestors, and then they've had to, move those graves to higher ground.
That's true. We went there many back 8 years ago. That yes, our graves are being flooded, and some of them are eroded out of the graves, and we can find skulls and bones of our ancestors underwater, and we have to move them up a little higher to the ground so they won't be exposed to fluctuations of the water, and it's basically at the same time it's horrific for elders to see our bones scattered along the shorelines of our ancestors, and it's basically another way of destroying the history of people, okay? By flooding the historical places where they have been. The other things, when they find artifacts about our people, and then when we try to claim them, those are our people, those are ancestors' artifacts. But the province comes around and said, no, it's the property of the province. And I said to myself, well, was the province here 2,000 years ago to be the property of the province? And he said, no. But then who is the owner of those artifacts that they can build their own museum so they can teach their kids where we come from as people, as humans, or as in the Hewak or Pimicikamak people. That's who we are, where we are. That's another message we're trying to deliver to the United States, as to understand what corridors they're going to be building across to get hydropower from Quebec or hydropower from Manitoba Hydro. It is very important that they understand that it's not clean. It kills people.
Right.
Our people have died out there exercising their right to hunt and fish. About 8 cases of people have died out there. For example, my brother and my stepbrother have died out there exercising their right to able to understand, to able to go hunt, And for people here in the United States, between New York and Boston, need to understand that buying this power is basically participating in the act of cultural genocide of our people without having to understand what those issues back there in the shadows of these mega dams.
And so they're pushing these mega dams as clean energy that will benefit the communities. I know that in the Northern Flood Agreement, they promised to eradicate impoverishment, and that should the waters fluctuate above or below the height of a pencil, that the people would be compensated. Have they lived up to any of their agreements? And if so, how?
It's been quite a while for this. It was signed in 1977, I think around about December 21st. This is 2019, approaching 2020. And a little bit have been done to the Northern Flood Agreement. Basically, the rules of engagement in this agreement, basically, we don't have very much of a chance to actually do something about the Northern Flood Agreement, because it always goes to the court, to the arbitrator. And the arbitrator usually just basically we don't have a choice to who will be the arbitrator to actually understand Indigenous issues. So we're up against lawyers and their consultants and their courts, which is not ours, and it's not our laws, it's theirs.
Right.
So we fight in a court. So, but we have won one that took us 16 years of the NFA regards to, which is the legal bridge that spans across the east side of the Nelson River. It took 16 years, but we have to fight back, and we have to stand up to these corporations and governments, enable to succeed something that what it says in the Northern Flood Agreement, instead of going to court, or in good faith do it.
Right.
But that's 45 years now. We're still doing the same thing over and over again, trying to get them to do these things. So I said to myself, it's time to start acting as sovereign nations instead of just talking about it.
Right.
Yeah, do it. So we basically done it once, or maybe 3 times, I think. It's just basically take over some of their property, which they call their properties. We basically, their properties are sitting in our tree lands, or sitting in our Aboriginal lands, without prior consent, or even without even paying rental fee of the waters and the lands they're using.
Right. Let me just say, for those who've just tuned in, I'm with Thomas Monias from the Pimicikamak Cree Nation, and we're talking about the Genpeg Hydroelectric Dam, and not just Genpeg, but all the various dams throughout colonial Canada, and the devastating effects on the communities. How has it affected the economy of the Pimicikamak people?
Back in the days before Hydro came along, I believe we were we had a sustainability of ability to get food from the land, fish from the waters.
Right.
And actually we had a very sustainable environment of food security that we didn't have right now. It was very healthy food. I mean, nobody got sick. There was medicine out there because the land was clean, the water was clean. But when Manitoba Hydros came in, most of everything that our elders, or those trappers and fishermen and hunters and cattlers, no longer exist, except a very, very tiny amount of that. They exercise that. But to exercise those food gathering and it's very difficult, because sometimes they have to push their boats along the Nelson River up to their waist because they can't drive it because it's so shallow.
Right.
And including the ice when in the winter, there are 2 levels of ice being formed in there, and they're very dangerous out there to be driving your skidoos and that. But the economy today is basically more of the money kind of economy. You do your best to get a job, and the jobs are very scarce. And the agreement is to eradicate mass employment and poverty. Well, we're still in a situation of mass unemployment and poverty. The agreement didn't do what it's supposed to say. But I think it's time we Indigenous people need to say, well, we do have an agreement, but it's not being implemented the way they said they're going to implement it in good faith.
Right.
So we kind of just say, okay, never mind that. We'll just go after our water. They haven't paid that. We'll go after our land. They haven't paid that. And if they don't pay for it, I guess we have to start collecting. How we collect it is sometimes we have to do some drastic things by acting on a civil disobedience.
Right.
We did that once with Genpeg.
And how'd that work out?
Well, it worked out pretty well for a while. Then this year it's gone again.
Yeah.
We have to see Indigenous people. The communities are impacted by hydro, not just in Manitoba, but right across Canada. They have to understand this. The battle for your rights, the battle for who you are as an indigenous nation or collective people, you have to keep fighting to stay strong. This is not just 1 year or 2 years. This is a continuation of battle all the way till you fall off the ground, died, then somebody takes over. Right. It's the same thing as a nation, same thing with the United States, continues to sue power. It's the same thing with Canada, same thing with England. All the nations that are out there, they continue to sue power of their presence in this world. So us indigenous people, we have to continue to show presence in where we are being destroyed by corporations that are using our lands and our waters. And we have to keep coming back and do what needs to be done. Say, enough is enough. This has gone far enough. You have to pay these rights. You have to pay these things that you're using. So in this way, whatever that is that comes out of there, then we can build our own economy. Yeah? Because now we're taking the money from our lands that we're able to use and build homes, build roads, build water and sewer infrastructure that is healthy, or even may get to some water somewhere else instead of right in the Nelson River, where we can take it where it's clean, where hydro is not impacting a lake. Right. Those are the things that need to be understood if you're going to live in a very healthy community.
Right. That's right.
But I have to go there.
Let's shift gears a little bit. What are your plans after this tour? And you head back to Pimicikamak. What's next on the agenda?
Well, there are about 3 agendas that we are thinking right now, or planning back home. Or people are planning back home right now as we speak here. We basically are telling me they're waiting me to get home. There are issues that need to be. So one is the Genpig is still occupying our lands and our waters for free.
Right.
That's one. Second one is that we got transmission lines, pipe hole 1, 2, and 3, still crisscrossing our territory. That's the second one. The third one is this: what is it that we're going to do? That's the biggest question. Now we need to set up processes how we're going to deal with this stuff, because at the end of the day, all these transmission lines you see, the dams that are being built, yes, there was an agreement of we call NFA, but it came after when the dams are being built. And there's no way of turning back, and you have to live with the agreement, because now you have Canada and Manitoba Hydro and the province dictating what it is going to be there, because they got these dams already, which got probably spent about $200 million already, and they can't turn back. Right. So that's the strategy they've been using for the last 41 years in building these dams. They build them first, as far as they can go, and they come back and say, well, we need your consent. Then you go take a look at these dams that are being about a quarter done, spending around about $300 million already. So if you stop it, who basically saying, who's paying the price for all this stuff?
Right.
Okay. Well, I didn't ask for a dam. We were doing pretty well without dams back then.
Right.
We have a really nice country. But the luxury of electricity is part of the addictiveness. You became part of that system. That's the sad part on our side.
Right.
But able to understand the energy, we need to look a little more further than just hydro dams, where the water is thick, that floods all the lands. We need to start looking at more efficient and actually energy, clean energy. For example, like solar panels, wind energy. There are others we haven't discovered what needs to be done. But what I'm saying to people in the United States, you claim to be the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah.
Can you be the most powerful country in the world on producing a clean energy for your people instead of buying it from us where we die out there in the Canadian, on the other side of the so-called Canadian border? that's the question you need to answer yourself. You got a corridor coming down here, and you people don't know what's behind these corridors of transmission lines. So you need to start questioning your government. You need to start questioning, what is it? Did you see what's going on over there? You have to be accountable to what it is that you're purchasing.
Right.
You can't just purchase just because somebody from Quebec or somebody from Manitoba is saying we have clean energy, sustainable energy, okay? And then buying it and not knowing what's going on in my community and other communities throughout the Treaty 5 territory. Got Nelson House, Split Lake, Norriels, York Landing, who have been devastated by these hydro dams.
Yeah.
And somebody like me or somebody else from their other communities are now speaking about this stuff. I'm here speaking because of what's going on back home.
Right.
And but when I'm speaking for Pimicikamak, I'm also speaking other communities that are impacted by Manitoba Hydro. So that's why I'm here.
Wow. Well, it's really good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I'll shift gears one more time. Even before the hydro dams were put in place, our people have suffered in residential schools. I believe that the last residential school in Vancouver was closed back in 1996. Can you tell me anything about the effects of the residential schools on the Pimicikamak people?
My grandmother, my great-grandmother, never went to school. She lived in West Lake, not Cross Lake. And many other families have lived there. And it just affects them when they actually come to on a reserve called the Cross Lake. He was not part of the system. So his language completely different than those elders who've been affected by residential school. We have residential school products, I guess you could say, of the elders who went to school. They don't have the same thinking process of what the elders who were not affected by residential school. So there's a big difference.
Wow.
The people that I worked with back then were not affected by residential schools. They have a very powerful speech regarding saying, "Kina na kita skina." What that means this is our land. On the other side of the people who have been affected have a very difficulty to say that because they have their fear of the reprimand of some kind.
Wow.
from through the Indian or by Canada, by the province of Manitoba Hydro. So that's the balance we're trying to mend the bridge so people can cross the bridge one way, so we need to help each other, regardless of who we are back then and who we are today. That we're going to have to stand as one people and get rid of this divisiveness that is created by Manitoba Hydro, including Canada and the province. We can't keep going like this because we are just basically participating on the participation of it to be divided by what we say about each individual who actually trying to fight for the right to stand as one people.
Right. Ooh, sorry. Which leads me to the question, is it the Cross Lake Band of Indians? Is it the Pimicikamak Cree Nation? There seems to be some confusion out there.
Yeah, definitely. There's confusion. There's Cross Lake Band is basically under the Indian Act called, it's a federal law. And it's basically, a long time ago, used to be Indian Agency. A long time ago, that's when then the name changed to Ban Office. Basically, it's an office of an Indian Affairs in the reserve. Okay, Pimicikamak is basically an old traditional governance that existed a long time ago, but we had to modernize that governance, enable for us to understand, and also our people to understand outside people, like white people and other corporates, that there's a difference between the band and also Pimicikamak. Pimicikamak basically relies on traditional laws, customary laws, and under the Indian Act, under the band, they basically just follow the Indian Act, what tells them what needs to be done on the reserve. Sadly, though, as we move forward in this century, the reserves that were on the Treaty 5 become now on the Indian Act becomes now a federal crown lands. So when you take a look at yourself and you look at it and look at this stuff, you started to wonder, do we have lands under the Indian Act? And you read these things, and he said, no, they're federal crown lands.
It sounds like they're essentially trying to turn the reserves into municipalities.
Well, that's the plan. It seems to be like it's going to kick in whoever signed the first Land Management Act and also the Financial Management Act, which is basically, that's the step forward in going into a federal municipality. But basically, when it goes to a federal municipality, then your rights as being who you are, Indigenous, becomes just another minority at the melting pot of the Canadian society.
Oh.
That's what it will come to. But I'm not quite sure yet when it will kick in. Some of the reserves already, some of the federal crown lands, of which are deemed to be reserved, now have kicked in by signing off contribution agreements, funding agreements, which some of them will sign on for 5 years. Yeah. And after 5 years, you're going to have to come up with your own money from somewhere.
Right.
Basically taxing your people.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's another question. Some of the people out there might be familiar with Helen Betty what's her name? Helen Betty Osborne, is it?
Yeah, Helen Betty Osborne.
Right, there was a movie that was made, and she was murdered, and she was, she was from Nelson House, I think.
Norway House.
Oh, Norway House, okay. Well, the question I'm thinking about is, what can you tell me about the situation as far as missing and murdered Indigenous youth or men or women, in the Cross Lake area? Is that a big problem right now?
We have huge problems in our communities. Our leadership and are doing their best to trying to figure out how to stop this violence that's been occurring in our community. But the trend that's there, we have to find a way to do it and to stop it. And one way we trying to get the young people to get interested is we have to provide employment.
Right.
Okay? And shelters or homes so they can live there and start realizing they got a home and they have to do something about their homes by providing clean yards or something to have a hold onto you that you're now responsible. You have a responsibility to your kids. You have a responsibility to your homes. But you also have a responsibility to employment. But none of those exist. So our young people may have gone to somewhere else to relieve that homelessness, that loneliness. That's very painful for other young men and young women who don't have that security and able to raise their children in a place where they call home. Like most of the United States people may have all that, but we don't. Okay, like I said, there's 2,000, I think for sure, that are homeless in our community.
Wow. How many people are part of the Pimicikamak community?
Well, we have a very wide territory. I mean, some people live in the cities, in towns. The majority of our people actually live on a reserve. Basically, about 8,000 people live in our community, and then the rest that are scattered throughout the other communities, either by home because of no homes, or by getting jobs somewhere, or by through education going out there. And that's basically why we have a very large problem. I think it's been said that we are the second largest community in Canada. But
Really?
I'm not sure about that. But yes.
Wow. Let's see. What we know that have been dams that have been decommissioned, and so it is possible, for these.
Yeah, I went to see two of them here in the United States. And one of them was a smaller one, which I paddled through. First time our water actually flows through the system of the rivers. So I paddled there.
Wow.
Then I went to see one, the closer one here. I think it's called Farmington. I think that.
Okay.
There was another dam was decommissioned. The whole wall of that dam was removed.
Wow.
And the water flows right through. And I got invited next spring to come and see. All the fishes have come back to this area. Mm-hmm. Even the sturgeon, the ocean sturgeons, actually come back to this river. And other species of fish. And it's very... I just said to myself, oh my God, I wish I can do that too. Remove the gentpig and bring our fish back.
Yeah.
Or things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's an awesome experience in the United States because you always think that everybody's a racist around here, but I ought to meet people that are very kind.
Sure.
And compassionate about who we are as Indigenous people from Canada. And they seem to understand now what we go through when they purchase this power from Manitoba Hydro and from Quebec Hydro. Maybe someday all of us will able to work together and find a way to get actually a clean energy that does not destroy both sides of the borders of different issues that we fight about, instead of competing each other, trying to be right on different issues.
Yeah.
I think somewhere down the line we need to work together and find a way to find a clean energy instead of buying fossil fuels or making fossil fuels or buying something else from somewhere in another world, another country like Saudi Arabia. Maybe we can produce something here that can do not to use fossil fuels, and we don't need to use water, and bring back all our fishes, and we can all enjoy the whole thing that God gave us. I don't know. Maybe this is being me being in a dream, but you know what? There was a guy who said one time, I guess, I have a dream.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That someday we'll be in the promised land.
Yeah. I'm okay.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. It's just a matter of actually all of us pushing for that.
Yeah.
If we don't push it, if we go different directions, I think somewhere down the line we will able to say, look, you guys, we're all going different directions. We're arguing on the same issue, but we don't understand each other.
Yeah.
Can we just stop this and let's take a look at it, what we're doing?
Right.
Like John F. Kennedy
said,
ask what you could ask what you can do for your country.
Right.
I think that's what we should do. North America is our country.
Yeah.
It may have borders, but it's still a whole North America is who we are as an Americans.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, so this is wonderful, and it's great to see, like a young man like Carlton, who's 25 years old, come down and do the speaking circuit with you, and talk about what's going on in Pimicikamak. Do you have some heartfelt words that you want to give to your own people in Pimicikamak? Because I know you're beloved by so many people, and you're looked up to as an elder. Do you have any words for people in Pimicikamak? And you can say it in your own language.
For the Mamayak, we have to stand as one. That is the only way we will succeed, is to stand as one.
Yeah.
Mamawi.
All right.
Okay.
Well, many blessings. Thank you so much for your time. Be sure to share this out to your groups. Once again, this is Thomas Monias. It's an honor to have him and his wife Rita down here. Along with, he brought a small entourage of others that spoke at the National Day of Mourning. And so thanks for watching. Share it out. Mini Wachoni, water is life.
Earth is life.
Oh.